Bilderberg 2007, Agenda, and Participant List. Daniel Esterlin. www.danielestulin.com. Friday, May 25, 2007. In 1954, the most powerful men in the world met for the first time, under the auspices of the Dutch royal crown and the Rockefeller family, in the luxurious Hotel Bilderberg of the small Dutch town of Oosterbeek. For an entire weekend, they debated the future of the world. When it was over, they decided to meet once every year to exchange ideas and analyze international affairs. They named themselves the Bilderberg Club. Since then, they have gathered yearly, in a luxurious hotel, somewhere in the world, to decide the future of humanity. In more than 50 years of meetings, that brings together unprecedented power and money, in the same time and place, never has any information been leaked as to what subjects were debated during the Bilderberg Club meetings. Bilderberg, one of the world's most powerful secret organizations, is run out of an 18 square meters office, staffed by one person, using one telephone line and a single fax number. There is no web page, and no brass nameplate on the door. The independent press has never been allowed in, and no statements have ever been released on the attendees' conclusions, nor has any agenda for a Bilderberg meeting been made public. How, in God's name, can this be possible, when Bilderberg's elite membership list includes all of the most powerful individuals who run the planet? Leaders of the Bilderberg Club argue that this discretion is necessary to allow participants in the debates to speak freely, without being on the record or reported publicly. Otherwise, Bilderbergers state, they would be forced to speak in the language of a press release. Doubtlessly, this discretion allows the Bilderberg Club to deliberate more freely, but that does not respond to the fundamental question, what do the world's most powerful people talk about in these meetings? Any modern democratic system protects the right to privacy, but doesn't the public have a right to know what their political leaders are talking about when they meet the wealthiest business leaders of their respective countries? What guarantees do citizens have that the Bilderberg Club isn't a center for influence trafficking and lobbying, if they aren't allowed to know what their representatives talk about at the club's secret gatherings? Why are the Davos World Economic Forum and G8 meetings carried in every newspaper, given front-page coverage, with thousands of journalists in attendance, while no one covers Bilderberg Club meetings, even though they are annually attended by presidents of the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, Federal Reserve, chairmen of 100 most powerful corporations in the world, such as Daimler Chrysler, Coca-Cola, British Petroleum, Chase Manhattan Bank, American Express, Goldman Sachs, Microsoft, vice presidents of the United States, directors of the CIA and the FBI, general secretaries of NATO, American senators and members of Congress, European prime ministers and leaders of opposition parties, top editors and CEOs of the leading newspapers in the world. It is surprising that no mainstream corporate media outlets consider a gathering of such figures, whose wealth far exceeds the combined wealth of all United States citizens, to be newsworthy, when a trip by any one of them on their own makes headline news on TV. The delegates at Bilderberg 2007 Istanbul, Turkey, May 31 to June 3. This year's delegation will once again include all of the most important politicians, businessmen, central bankers, European commissioners and executives of the Western corporate press. They will be joined at the table by leading representatives of the European royalty, led by Queen Beatrix, the daughter of the Bilderberg founder, former Nazi, Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands, and Bilderberger president, Eta Bi, vice chairman, Suez Tractable from Belgium. According to Bilderberg's steering committee list, which this author had access to. Amongst the names appearing on the initial list of invitees, which this journalist had access to in January 2007, stand out the names of the now disgraced John Brown, British Petroleum's chief executive officer, and the disgraced and fired former chief of the World Bank, Paul Wolfowitz. It will be interesting to see if either of these men makes an appearance at Bilderberg 2007. The Bilderbergers have no trouble accepting criminals into the fold, as long as their misdeeds are conducted away from public spotlight and scrutiny. Once exposed, the culprits are generally discarded. Lord Conrad Black, former chief executive of Hollinger Media Group, is a case in point. Two other names on the original January 2007 list should raise a few eyebrows. One of them is Bernard Kauffner, the newly appointed Minister of Foreign Affairs in the right-wing Nicolas Sarkozy government in France. Kauffner is a former founder of ONG Doctors Without Borders. He was absent from Bilderberg 2006, in Ottawa, Canada. Could his government position been arranged prior to the French national elections? For my money, the surprise appearance of Year Award should go to Mahmoud Sariogalam, Associate Professor of International Relations, School of Economic and Political Sciences, National University of Iran. What is an Iranian doing at a NATO alliance-controlled Bilderberg conference? We will know soon enough. Bilderberg 2007 is indeed a good time to look behind the scenes. What will be discussed at Bilderberg 2007? Aside from the Iraq quagmire, energy problems continue to dominate Bilderberger discussions. Oil and natural gas are finite, non-renewable resources. That's because once used up it cannot be replenished. As the world turns, and as oil and natural gas supplies dwindle while demand soars dramatically, especially with Indian and Chinese booming economies who want all the trinkets and privileges of an American way of life, we, as the planet, have crossed the midpoint of oil production and discovery. From now on, the only sure thing is that supply will continue to diminish and prices will continue to increase. In these conditions, world conflict is a physical certainty. End of oil means end of world's financial system, something which has already been acknowledged by Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times, two full-time members of the Bilderberger Inner Circle. Goldman Sachs Oil Report, another full-time member of the Bilderberger elite, published on March 30, 2005, increased the oil price range for the year 2005 to 2006 from $55 to $80 per barrel to $55 to $105. During 2006 meeting, Bilderbergers have confirmed that their short-range price estimate for oil for the 2007 to 2008 continues to hover around $105 to $150 per barrel. No wonder José Barroso, president of the European Commission, announced several months ago, during the unveiling of the new European energy policy, that the time has come for a post-industrial age. To bring the world into the post-industrial age, you first need to destroy the world's economic base and create another Great Depression. When people are poor, they do not spend money, they do not travel, and they do not consume. As the economic impact sinks in, and as the after effects of peak oil become evident in the face of breakdown of civilization, the United States will be forced to challenge Europe, Russia and China for the hegemony of control, and the ever-depleting hydrocarbon, non-renewable reserves, most of which are contained in the Middle East. That will be point number 2 on the Bilderberg 2007 agenda. Third item on the agenda is European relations with Russia, not only in Europe but also in Central Asia, with Moscow making a deal with Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan over the transport of gas to Europe. The U.S. geostrategic goal of driving a wedge between the Central Asian countries and Russia lies in shambles. While the U.S. says, this is not good for Europe, the Europeans are divided. Iran overnight has become America's last hope in the energy war. Iran war, after 2 years of huffing and puffing by the Bush government, is definitely off the table. Furthermore, with France, Russia, Japan and China investing heavily in Iran, the world has drawn a line in the sand and the U.S. will be told at the conference not to cross it. There is blood in the water, and blood in the water usually leads to a good fight. That notwithstanding, the United States needs to control the region, not only for its oil reserves but, most importantly, to help it sustain world economic hegemony. Under this strategic design, regional states will be turned to weak domains of sectarian sheiks with little or no sovereignty and, by implications, a pathetic agenda of their economic development. Regional chaos favors the spread of Islamic fundamentalism, which in turn reinforces the process of political and social disintegration, supported by the Bilderbergers. With Blair leaving, the UK will be told yet again that they must, at all cost, do what is necessary to integrate the country into the European community. Finally, with Wolfowitz resigning from the World Bank, Bilderberg luminaries will try to come to a consensus on how best to overhaul not only the bank, but its sister organization, the International Monetary Fund (IMF), led by a Spaniard, Rodrigo Rato. Wolfowitz became entangled in controversy 7 weeks ago, after World Bank whistleblowers leaked to the Washington-based non-governmental organization Government Accountability Project, GAP, documents that showed Wolfowitz pushing a high pay raise in a second mint deal to the U.S. State Department for his girlfriend. We, as a society, are at a crossroads. In almost every corner of the planet, stress points are beginning to fracture. The roads we take from here will determine the very future of humanity. It was former British Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli who stated that the world is governed by very different personages from what is imagined by those who are not behind the scenes. It is not up to God to bring us back from the new dark age planned for us. It is up to us whether we go into the next century as an electronic, global, police state, or as free human beings. Depends on the action we take now. Forewarned is forearmed. We will never find the right answers if we don't ask the proper questions.